The crystal towers of Lumineth Prime burned with dying light as Ambassador Kalen watched his world fall apart. His crystalline body reflected the orange glow of fires that consumed everything he had known. The Vex swarm had arrived 3 days ago, and already half his planet was gone. Kalen stood in the communication chamber, his 6 arms moving across the control panels with desperate speed. The Valari had never known war. For 10,000 years, they had lived in peace, creating art and music that touched the souls of every species in the galaxy. Now their beautiful crystal cities crumbled under the hunger of the swarm. "Send the message again," Kalen told his aide. "Someone must help us. The Altrurian Republic has the strongest fleet. The Ethereal Collective has the wisest minds. They will come." But space remained silent. The great powers of the galaxy were too far away or too busy with their own problems. The Vex swarm moved like a dark cloud across Kalen's world, eating everything in its path. Buildings, trees, even the ground itself disappeared into the hungry mass of alien parasites. On the other side of the galaxy, Communications Officer Hannah sat at her desk in the Outer Rim listening post. Earth's newest station floated in the darkness, between stars, far from the main shipping lanes. Most days were quiet here. Today was different. Her equipment picked up a signal from deep space. The transmission was weak and full of static, but Hannah could tell it was important. She had studied alien languages for years, hoping to make first contact with friendly species. This message was not friendly. It was terrified. "Emergency transmission," the alien voice said in broken Standard Galactic. "Lumineth Prime under attack. Vex swarm consuming our world. Please help. Anyone who can hear this, please help us." Hannah's hands moved quickly across her keyboard. She had never heard of the Vex swarm, but the fear in the alien's voice was real. She sent the message straight to Luna Station, where Admiral Taiho commanded Earth's defense fleet. Taiho read the message 3 times before he believed it. Humans had only been in space for 50 years. Most alien species saw Earth as a dangerous world full of violent creatures. They called humans Deathworlders and stayed far away from human space. Now aliens were asking for help. Taiho looked out the window of his office at Earth below. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from space, but he knew better. Every human alive had ancestors who survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and countless other disasters. Earth had tried to kill humanity for millions of years, and humanity had refused to die. "Get me Fleet Captain Minho," Taiho said to his aide, "and tell the shipyards to prepare the Soul's Pride for immediate departure." His aide looked worried. "Sir, we don't know anything about these Valari or this Vex swarm. The alien transmission could be fake. It could be a trap." Taiho shook his head. The fear in that voice was real. Someone out there needs help, and we're the only ones close enough to provide it. He paused, thinking about humanity's place in the galaxy. Besides, maybe it's time we showed the galaxy what Deathworlders can really do. Back on Lumineth Prime, Kalen received an answer to his desperate calls. But it was not the answer he wanted. The message came from Earth, a world that most civilized species avoided. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as violent, unpredictable creatures from a world so dangerous that everything on it evolved to kill. "This is Admiral Taiho of the Terran Defense Fleet," the message said. "We received your distress call. Help is coming. Hold your position and protect your people. We'll be there in 5 days." Kalen stared at the message in horror. Humans? The galaxy's most famous predators were coming to save them? He had heard stories about Earth, a world where the weather could kill, where the animals hunted in packs, where even the plants were poisonous. What kind of help could such creatures provide? But outside his window, another crystal spire fell to the swarm. His people were dying. The beautiful singing voices of the Valari grew quieter each hour as the Vex consumed more of his world. Kalen had no choice. He sent a reply accepting human aid. "Understood, Admiral Taiho. We are grateful for any help you can provide. Please hurry." The Vex swarm had devoured 17 civilizations before reaching Lumineth Prime. Each time, the pattern was the same. The parasites would arrive, consume everything organic, then move on to the next world. They were unstoppable, endless, and utterly without mercy. The swarm's queen mind tasted the fear of the crystal beings and found it sweet. Soon this world would be empty, just another dead rock floating in space. The queen had felt the electromagnetic signals coming from the planet, calls for help that went unanswered. No one would come. No one ever came. But something was different this time. New signals arrived from the edge of the system. Ships were coming, ships that moved with purpose and speed. The queen mind did not worry. It had faced the fleets of 17 worlds and consumed them all. Fleet Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride as his task force dropped out of hyperspace. Behind him came 12 other ships, each one built to survive in the harsh environment around Earth. These were not the elegant vessels of peaceful species. These were warships designed by people who understood that the universe was full of things that wanted to kill you. "Report," Minho said to his sensor officer. "Confirmed, sir. Alien world under attack by unknown hostile force. The attackers appear to be some kind of biological swarm. They're consuming the planet's surface." Minho nodded. He had seen the intelligence reports about the Vex swarm, parasitic organisms that worked as a hive mind, consuming everything in their path. On most worlds, such creatures would be an unstoppable disaster. But Minho and his crew were not from most worlds. They were from Earth. "Signal the fleet," he said. "All ships to combat alert. We're going hunting." The battle for Lumineth Prime was about to begin, and for the first time in its existence, the Vex swarm was going to learn what it meant to be prey. The Soul's Pride cut through space like a weapon built for war. Fleet Captain Minho walked through the corridors of his ship, checking on his crew as they prepared for battle. The human vessel was different from every other ship in the galaxy. Where other species built elegant, graceful craft, humans built machines designed to survive. Chief Engineer Yuna stood in the engine room, her hands moving across control panels with practiced skill. She had spent years modifying human ships for combat. The Soul's Pride carried weapons that most aliens would consider barbaric, kinetic cannons that fired chunks of metal at incredible speeds, nuclear torpedoes that could crack a moon in half, point defense systems designed to shoot down asteroids. "How are we looking, Yuna?" Minho asked over the ship's communication system. "All weapons ready, Captain. Shields are at full power. The new armor plating should handle anything these bugs can throw at us." Yuna smiled as she spoke. Like all humans, she had grown up on a world where danger was everywhere. Building better defenses was second nature to her people. Marine Colonel Do-hyun checked his soldiers in the drop bay. 200 human Marines stood ready for combat, wearing armor designed to protect them in Earth's harshest environments. Their weapons were simple but effective. Gauss rifles that could punch through tank armor, plasma grenades that burned, hot enough to melt steel, combat knives that never needed sharpening. "Listen up," Do-hyun told his Marines. "We're going down to help some crystal people fight off a bug swarm. These aliens have never seen real combat, so they're counting on us to handle the dirty work. Make Earth proud." The Marines cheered. They were volunteers from Earth's toughest regions, former soldiers, hunters, and survival experts who had signed up to explore the galaxy. Now they would get to do what humans did best: protect others from things that wanted to kill them. Dr. Soman sat in the ship's laboratory studying everything the humans knew about the Vex swarm. As the fleet's xenobiologist, it was her job to understand alien life forms. What she saw in the data files made her think of home. The Vex were parasites similar to Earth's army ants or killer bees. They worked together as a hive mind, consuming everything in their path. But unlike Earth's dangerous creatures, the Vex had no natural predators. They had never faced anything that could hunt them back. "Captain," Solman said over the communication system, "I've finished my analysis of the Vex swarm. They're not as unstoppable as everyone thinks. They have weaknesses we can exploit." "Tell me," Minho replied. "They're used to prey that runs away or fights in organized formations, but they've never faced persistence hunters. On Earth, our ancestors hunted by following their prey for days, wearing them down until they collapsed from exhaustion. We can use the same tactics against the swarm." As the human fleet approached Lumineth Prime, The Volari watched their would-be saviors with growing fear. Ambassador Kalen stood in his observation chamber, looking at the alien ships through his telescopes. The human vessels looked like flying fortresses covered in weapon ports and armor plating. "They're going to destroy our planet," one of Kalen's aides whispered. "Look at those ships. They're built for war, not rescue." Kalen tried to stay calm. His people were artists and philosophers. They had never seen military vessels before, and the human ships terrified them. But the Vex swarm was eating his world, hour by hour. Whatever the humans planned to do, it had to be better than watching his civilization die. The human fleet took position around Lumineth Prime. Fighter squadrons launched from the larger ships, piloted by humans who had trained in Earth's chaotic atmosphere. Squadron leader Jinwoo flew his fighter through a cloud of Vex organisms, his weapons cutting through them like a farmer harvesting crops. "This is easier than flying through a thunderstorm," Jinwoo told his pilots. "These bugs fly in straight lines. No wind shear, no lightning, no hail. Just keep shooting and stay in formation." The other human pilots laughed. They had all learned to fly in Earth's dangerous skies, where storms could appear without warning, and winds could flip an aircraft upside down in seconds. The Vex swarm's attacks seemed predictable in comparison. On the surface of Lumineth Prime, Sergeant Yunji led her squad through the ruins of a crystal city. The Vex had consumed most of the buildings, leaving only empty frameworks behind. But the sergeant had grown up hunting in Earth's forests, tracking animals that could smell fear from miles away. "The swarm leaves pheromone trails," she explained to her soldiers. "Follow the scent markers, and we'll find their breeding grounds. Once we destroy those, the local swarm will collapse." Her squad moved through the ruins like ghosts, using skills learned in Earth's wilderness. They avoided the main Vex groups, striking at isolated clusters before disappearing into the rubble. The swarm had never faced enemies who could hide and strike from unexpected directions. Captain Kyung prepared his boarding team for the most dangerous mission of all. Intelligence reports showed that the Vex had converted several of their bioships into hive nodes, controlling the swarm's movements from space. Someone would have to board those ships and destroy them from the inside. "We'll go in through the waste ports," Kyung explained to his team. "The bioships need to expel toxins just like any living creature. We'll use pressure suits designed for deep ocean work. If we can survive at the bottom of Earth's oceans, we can survive inside an alien bioship." His team nodded. They were all former deep-sea workers or submarine crews, people who understood how to operate in hostile environments where one mistake meant death. The inside of a Vex bioship would be dangerous, but they had faced worse in Earth's abyssal depths. The Vex Queen mind felt something it had never experienced before: confusion. The new ships fought differently than any enemy the swarm had faced. Instead of forming defensive lines or retreating to safe distances, these aliens seemed to enjoy combat. They flew their small craft directly into swarm formations, shooting with abandon. More troubling were the ground forces. The Queen could sense her children dying in patterns that made no sense. Small groups of the enemy would appear, kill dozens of Vex warriors, then vanish before the swarm could respond. It was as if these aliens could become invisible at will. But the Queen mind was ancient and patient. It had consumed 17 worlds by adapting to new threats. These strange aliens would be no different. The swarm would learn, evolve, and eventually devour them like all the rest. Admiral Taiho watched the battle unfold from his command ship. His people were performing exactly as he had expected. Humans had spent millions of years learning to survive, on a world that wanted to kill them. Now they would use those skills to protect others. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Begin Phase 2. It's time to show these parasites what happens when they threaten the innocent." The real battle was about to begin. The battle for Lumineth Prime began at dawn, when the first human fighters screamed through the atmosphere like falling stars. Squadron leader Jinwoo led his pilots into the heart of the Vex swarm, their weapons blazing trails of fire across the sky. The Vex had never faced fighters like these. Most species flew in careful formations, maintaining safe distances while exchanging long-range fire. Human pilots dove directly into swarm clusters, spinning and rolling through clouds of hostile organisms like they were dancing with death itself. "Target the big ones first," Jinwoo called to his squadron. "Take out their heavy flyers, then work your way down to the drones." His fighter spun through a spiral of Vex warriors, his cannons spitting streams of superheated plasma. Behind him, his wingman Baksu followed every move, the two pilots working together like they shared the same mind. They had trained in Earth's violent storms, where flying meant fighting the sky itself every second. The Vex Queen Mind watched her children die and felt something new. Surprise. These alien fighters moved like no others she had encountered. They seemed to welcome danger, flying through formations that should have destroyed them instantly. Her warriors struck again and again, but the human craft slipped away like smoke. On the surface, Sergeant Unji moved her squad through the ruins of a crystal city. The Vex had consumed most of the buildings, leaving behind hollow shells that looked like broken bones. But Unji had grown up hunting in the deep forests of Earth, tracking prey through terrain that could kill the unwary. "Movement ahead?" she whispered into her radio. "Cluster of warriors, maybe 30 strong, will use the broken spires for cover." Her marines spread out like wolves preparing to hunt. Each soldier carried equipment designed for Earth's harshest environments. Their armor could protect them from Arctic cold, desert heat, or the crushing pressure of ocean depths. Their weapons had been tested against Earth's most dangerous predators. The Vex cluster moved through the ruins in a search pattern, looking for surviving Valari. They never saw the humans coming. Yunji's squad struck from 3 directions at once, their weapons cutting through the swarm like fire through paper. In 30 seconds, the fight was over. "Clean sweep," reported Corporal Hyanwoo. "No casualties on our side." Yunji nodded. This was how humans hunted. They used patience, planning, and teamwork to bring down prey much larger than themselves. The Vex were dangerous, but they were also predictable. They followed simple patterns that any experienced hunter could exploit. High above the planet, Captain Kyung led his boarding team toward a Vex bioship. The massive creature floated in space, like a living asteroid, its surface covered with weapon ports that glowed with alien fire. Intelligence reports said it was controlling swarm movements across an entire continent. "Remember your training," Kyung told his team as they approached in their stealth pod. "We're going in through the waste disposal system. These things are living creatures, so they have to get rid of toxins somehow." The boarding pod attached itself to the bioship's hull like a parasite. Kyung's team wore pressure suits designed for working in Earth's deepest ocean trenches, where the pressure could crush a human body in seconds. Inside the alien vessel, they would face acid, poison gas, and creatures that existed nowhere else in the universe. The team cut through the bioship's hull and entered its digestive system. The interior was like swimming through a nightmare, with walls that pulsed and contracted around them. Acid dripped from the ceiling, and strange organisms swam through pools of toxic fluid. "Just like exploring a deep-sea thermal vent," Kyung said calmly. "Watch your step, avoid the acid pools, and keep moving forward." His team had trained in Earth's most hostile underwater environments. They had explored volcanic vents where the water was hot enough to cook flesh, and caves where poisonous gases could kill in seconds. The inside of the bioship was dangerous, but they had faced worse. The Vex Queen Mind felt a sharp pain as the human boarding team destroyed vital systems inside her bioship. How had they gotten inside? Her ship's defenses should have killed any intruder within minutes. But these aliens seemed to ignore dangers that would destroy other species. More troubling reports came from across the battle zone. Human ground forces were appearing everywhere, striking at key swarm positions before vanishing back into the ruins. Their tactics made no sense. Instead of fighting to control territory, they seemed focused on killing as many Vex as possible while taking minimal losses. Dr. Soman monitored the battle from her laboratory aboard the Soul's Pride. Her computer screens showed the swarm's behavior patterns, and she was beginning to understand how the Vex operated. They were efficient predators, but they had never faced persistence hunters before. "Captain Minho," she called over the communication system. "The swarm is starting to change its tactics. The Queen Mind is learning from our attacks." "What do you recommend?" Minho asked. "We need to accelerate our timetable." The Vex adapt quickly, but they're still thinking like predators, not like prey. If we can make them feel hunted, they'll make mistakes. Minho smiled. Making enemies feel hunted was something humans did very well. His ancestors had tracked mammoths across frozen wastelands, following their prey for weeks until exhaustion made the kill possible. The Vex swarm was about to learn what it felt like to be on the wrong end of a hunt. "All units, this is Fleet Command," Minho announced. "Switch to Hunter Protocol. Make them run." Across the battle zone, human forces changed their tactics. Instead of quick strikes followed by withdrawal, they began sustained pressure campaigns. Fighter squadrons harassed Vex formations continuously, giving them no time to rest or regroup. Ground teams attacked supply lines and breeding sites, forcing the swarm to divert resources to defense. The Vex Queen Mind felt something she had never experienced in millions of years of existence: fear. Her children were dying faster than they could reproduce. The human hunters seemed to be everywhere at once, striking from directions that should have been impossible. Worse, the humans showed no signs of tiring. Most species needed rest, food, and medical attention after extended combat. But these Deathworlders kept fighting hour after hour, as if violence was as natural to them as breathing. Ambassador Kalen watched the battle from his shelter deep beneath the planet's surface. His people huddled around him, too frightened to speak. Above them, the humans fought with a savagery that terrified the peaceful Valari almost as much as the Vex had. "They're destroying everything," one of his aides whispered. "The humans are as dangerous as the swarm." But Kalen noticed something his aide had missed. The human weapons were precise, targeting only Vex organisms while leaving Valari structures untouched. These violent aliens were being careful not to harm the people they had come to save. "No," Kalen said quietly. "They're not destroying everything. They're hunting. There's a difference." The battle raged through the night and into the next day. Human forces pressed their attack relentlessly, giving the swarm no time to adapt or recover. The Vex Queen Mind tried every tactic she knew, but nothing worked against these strange hunters. Finally, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in her existence, the Queen Mind felt the urge to retreat. Her swarm was being systematically destroyed by predators who seemed to enjoy the hunt itself. If she stayed, her children would all die. The order went out through the hive mind: escape. The Vex swarm began to withdraw from Lumineth Prime, fleeing toward deep space. But the humans were ready for this too. They had positioned their ships to cut off escape routes, herding the swarm like ancient shepherds guiding their flocks. Admiral Taiho watched the tactical display with satisfaction. "Signal all units," he said. "The prey is running. Time to finish the hunt." The Deathworlders had shown the galaxy something new. What happened when humanity decided something needed to die? Communications officer Nari sat at her station aboard the Soul's Pride, her headphones filled with strange sounds from space. The Vex swarm was sending signals she had never heard before. After years of studying alien languages, she could recognize panic in any species. "Captain Minho," she called across the bridge. "I'm picking up emergency transmissions from the swarm. They're trying to coordinate a retreat." Minho walked over to her station and listened to the alien signals. The sounds were harsh and alien, but the desperation was unmistakable. "They want to run?" "Yes, sir. From what I can translate, they're calling for immediate evacuation. Their Queen Mind is ordering all units to abandon the planet and escape to deep space." Nari paused, checking her instruments again. "Sir, in all the records we have about the Vex swarm, they've never retreated before." The bridge crew fell silent. Every human aboard the ship understood what this meant. The Vex had consumed 17 civilizations without ever backing down. Now they were running from Earth's children. Down on the planet's surface, Ambassador Kalen emerged from his underground shelter for the first time in days. The crystalline spires of his city were damaged, but still standing. The air no longer buzzed with the sound of Vex wings. His people began to emerge from hiding, looking around in wonder. The human Marines had set up a medical station in the city's central plaza. Kalen watched as these alien warriors, still wearing armor stained with Vex fluid, gently treated injured Valari. Sergeant Yunji supervised the operation, her voice calm and professional as she coordinated with Valari healers. "Your people are safe now," she told Kalen when he approached. "We've cleared the swarm from this sector. Our ships are chasing down the survivors." Kalen looked at this human soldier with confusion. An hour ago, she had been killing Vex warriors with ruthless efficiency. Now she was helping wounded civilians with the same focused attention. How do you switch so quickly between violence and compassion? Yunji removed her helmet, revealing a young woman's face marked by combat experience. On Earth, everything is dangerous. We learned to kill threats quickly so we could spend more time protecting what matters. Your people matter, so we protect them. The answer was simple, but it revealed something profound about humanity. These Deathworlders were not mindless killers. They were guardians who had learned that sometimes violence was the price of peace. Admiral Tejo stood in his command center, coordinating the final phase of the battle. His ships had surrounded the fleeing Vex bioships, cutting off their escape routes. But he faced a difficult decision. The swarm was beaten, but not destroyed. Some of his officers wanted to hunt down every last Vex organism. Diplomatic attaché Sunho approached the Admiral's station. As humanity's ambassador to alien species, it was his job to consider the political implications of their actions. "Sir, we have a problem. The Galactic Council is monitoring our activities here. If we completely destroy the Vex, some species might see us as too dangerous." Taiho considered this. Humans had always walked a fine line in galactic politics. Most aliens feared them as primitive killers from a death world. If they proved too effective in combat, that fear might turn into active hostility. "What do you recommend, Sanho?" "Let some of them escape. Show the galaxy that we can defeat the Vex, but also that we know when to show mercy. It will make us seem more civilized." Taiho nodded slowly. It was a wise strategy, but it felt wrong to let any of the swarm survive. His every instinct told him to finish the hunt, to ensure the threat could never return. But humanity needed allies more than it needed to prove its strength. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Let the outer bioships escape, but make sure they remember this day." Engineer Gayung worked alongside Valari scientists in the planet's purification centers. The Vex had left behind biological contamination that could poison the world for generations. But humans had experience cleaning up after disasters. Earth's history was full of environmental catastrophes that humanity had overcome. "We need to burn out the root systems," Gayung explained to her Valari counterpart, a crystalline being named Thais. "On Earth, we learned to fight forest fires by creating fire breaks. We can use the same principle here." Thais watched as the human engineer operated equipment that seemed designed for industrial warfare. "This seems so violent. Are you certain? It won't damage our ecosystem further?" Gayung smiled. "Sometimes you have to hurt something to heal it. We've been doing this on Earth for centuries. Trust the process." The purification work was brutal but effective. Human techniques, developed for cleaning up oil spills and nuclear accidents, stripped away every trace of Vex contamination. The methods seemed harsh to the peaceful Valari, but they worked with surgical precision. As the battle wound down, the true scope of humanity's victory became clear. The Vex swarm, terror of 17 worlds, had been defeated by a species that most of the galaxy considered primitive. The news spread through subspace communications faster than the fleeing bioships. Captain Kyung emerged from the destroyed bioship, his boarding team intact despite hours of fighting inside the alien vessel. His pressure suit was scarred by acid burns and covered with alien fluids, but he was grinning. "Mission accomplished," he reported to Fleet Command. "The hive node is destroyed. The local swarm has lost coordination." His team had fought through the bioship's digestive system, battling immune cells and navigation parasites that tried to kill them at every turn. But they had trained in Earth's deep ocean trenches, where the pressure could crush steel and toxic chemicals ate through metal. The bioship's defenses were deadly, but not beyond human endurance. The Vex Queen Mind felt her connection to the planet's surface severing as her bioships died one by one. The humans had found weaknesses she didn't know existed, exploiting them with the patience of natural predators. Her swarm was fragmenting, losing the coordination that made it unstoppable. For the first time in millions of years, the Queen Mind made a decision based on fear rather than hunger. She ordered her surviving ships to flee toward the galaxy's edge, as far from human space as possible. The Deathworlders had taught her something new. There were predators in the universe that even the Vex should fear. As the last Vex bioships disappeared into hyperspace, Admiral Tejo received an unexpected communication. It came from the Galactic Council's emergency session, held in response to the battle at Lumineth Prime. Admiral Tejo, the message began, "This is Counselor Zephys of the Altrurian Republic. The Council has been monitoring your actions against the Vex swarm. We are impressed by your effectiveness." Tejo smiled at the careful phrasing. Impressed was diplomatic language for terrified but trying not to show it. "We would like to invite humanity to participate in the Galactic Defense Initiative," the message continued. "Your unique capabilities could be valuable in protecting member worlds from similar threats." It was the invitation humanity had been hoping for since first contact, not just membership in galactic civilization, but a role as protectors. The Deathworlders had found their place among the stars. But Tejo knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was full of threats that peaceful civilizations couldn't handle alone. Ancient machines that devoured starlight, quantum parasites that ate reality itself, and things worse than the Vex swarm waiting in the dark between stars. The universe needed guardians, and Earth's children had volunteered for the job. It was dangerous work, but someone had to do it. And if the choice was between a galaxy protected by human violence or a galaxy consumed by cosmic horrors, the choice was clear. The Deathworlders would stand watch so others could sleep safely. The Great Assembly of the Galactic Council had never seen anything like the formal ceremony taking place in its crystal halls. Representatives from 1,000 worlds watched as Admiral Tejo walked toward the central platform, his dress uniform, marking him as a warrior among diplomats. Ambassador Kalen stood at the ceremonial podium, his crystalline form reflecting the chamber's soft light. 6 months had passed since the battle at Lumineth Prime, and his world was healing. The Valari had learned to see their human rescuers not as monsters, but as necessary guardians in a dangerous universe. "Honored members of the Council," Kalen began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "When the Vex swarm consumed our world, we called for salvation from our enlightened neighbors. We expected aid from the wise ethereal collective or the powerful Altrurian Republic." He paused, looking directly at the human delegation. "Instead, the Deathworlders answered our call. We were terrified. We had heard stories about Earth, a world so hostile that its children evolved as predators. We feared they would destroy us, along with our enemies." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Most species still viewed humans with suspicion, despite their heroic actions at Lumineth Prime. Earth's reputation as a death world was hard to overcome. "But we were wrong," Kalen continued. "The humans did not come as conquerors. They came as protectors. They fought with violence when violence was needed, and showed mercy when mercy was appropriate. They saved our civilization and asked for nothing in return." Fleet Admiral Jiho stepped forward to accept the Council's formal invitation. He was older than Tejo, a veteran of humanity's first contact with alien civilizations. His face bore scars from a dozen different worlds, each one marking a place where humans had stood between innocent people and the darkness. "The Terran Defense Fleet accepts membership in the Galactic Defense Initiative," Jiho said formally. "But we have conditions." The council chamber fell silent. Most species begged for membership in galactic institutions. Only humans would negotiate terms. "We will not serve under alien command," Jiho continued. "Human units operate under human leadership. We will cooperate with council forces, but our people follow our orders." Some council members looked offended, but Counselor Zephys of the Altrurian Republic nodded approvingly. He had studied human military doctrine and understood why they insisted on independent command. "We accept your terms," Zephys said. "The Council recognizes that human tactical methods are unique. You will operate as an autonomous force within the Defense Initiative." As the ceremony concluded, Commander Hiron sat in the communications center of her new ship, the TDF Guardian. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. Distress calls from worlds facing threats that local forces couldn't handle. Pirates using stolen military technology. Ancient war machines awakening from million-year sleeps. Cosmic storms that devoured entire star systems. "Captain Dong-yun," she called to her commanding officer. "We have 17 emergency requests from the Outer Rim sectors, pirates, raiders, and something called void wraiths that I've never heard of." Dong-yun walked over to review the messages. He was young for a ship captain, but he had proven himself in the battle against the Vex. Like most human officers, he had volunteered for frontier duty, knowing it meant facing unknown dangers far from home. "Plot courses for the most urgent. Cases first," he ordered. "Signal the fleet. Looks like we're going to be busy." Navigator Isol worked at her station, calculating jump routes to distant star systems. The Terran Guardian fleet consisted of 50 ships crewed entirely by volunteers. They had left behind comfortable lives on Earth to patrol the galaxy's dangerous frontiers. "Sir," Isol called out, "I'm getting reports from our deep space monitors. Something big is moving through the Sagittarius arm. Multiple contacts heading toward inhabited systems." Dong-yun frowned. The galaxy was full of ancient threats that most civilizations couldn't face. That was why the Council needed human guardians. Earth's children had learned to fight monsters in their own backyard. Now they would do the same thing on a galactic scale. Back on Earth, Admiral Tejo met with civilian leaders in the Global Defense headquarters. The success at Lumineth Prime had changed humanity's position in the galaxy, but it had also created new responsibilities. "We're getting recruitment requests from every human settlement in known space," reported General Morrison, head of military personnel. "Young people want to join the Guardian fleet. They see it as a chance to make a real difference." Tejo nodded. Humans had always been explorers and protectors. The Guardian fleet gave them a way to serve both purposes at once. But he worried about the cost. Every ship they sent to the frontier was crewed by people who might never come home. "Keep the recruitment standards high," he ordered. "We need volunteers who understand that this isn't a game. The galaxy is full of things that can kill trained soldiers without effort. We need people who can face cosmic horrors and still function." On B, a distant world called Zerion 7, Captain Minseo led her Marines through alien ruins that predated human civilization by millions of years. Something had awakened in the planet's deep caverns, something that ate light itself and left only darkness behind. "Visual contact with the target," she reported over her radio. "It's some kind of energy being, incorporeal, but it's affecting our equipment." Her squad was equipped with gear designed for the worst environments Earth could provide. But this was something new, a creature that existed partially outside normal space-time. Their weapons seemed to pass right through it. "Fall back to secondary positions," Minseo ordered. "We need to figure out how to hurt something that doesn't technically exist." It was a familiar problem for human guardians. The galaxy was full of threats that violated the laws of physics as Earth understood them. But humans were good at adapting. They would find a way to fight this thing, just like they had found ways to fight everything else. The Galactic Council watched these developments with mixed feelings. Human effectiveness against cosmic threats was undeniable, but their methods often seemed extreme. They approached problems with a directness that more civilized species found disturbing. But results spoke for themselves. In the 6 months since the formation of the Terran Guardian fleet, they had responded to 47 emergency calls. Pirate fleets had been destroyed, ancient weapons had been neutralized, and 3 different species had been saved from extinction-level events. The galaxy was becoming a safer place, protected by warriors from a world that had tried to kill them since birth. The irony was not lost on most observers. The most violent species in known space had become the galaxy's most effective peacekeepers. Ambassador Kalen often thought about this paradox as he worked to rebuild his world. The humans who had saved his people were capable of terrible violence, but they used that violence to protect others. They were killers who had chosen to serve life. "They are what we needed," he told his aide one day, as they watched human engineers help rebuild a crystal spire. Not what we wanted, but what we needed. The galaxy is not a safe place. It requires guardians who can face darkness without flinching. In the depths of space, the Terran Guardian fleet patrolled routes that other species feared to travel. Their ships carried crews who had volunteered to stand between civilization and chaos. They were soldiers, explorers, and protectors, but, above all, they were human. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but it was also full of things that wanted to destroy everything good and decent. Someone had to stand watch against those things. Someone had to be willing to fight monsters so others could live in peace. Earth's children had taken on that burden willingly. They patrolled the galaxy's edge, faced cosmic horrors, and died far from home so that others could sleep safely. They were the Deathworlders who had chosen to serve life. When the next call for help came from the darkness between stars, they would answer. When ancient evils awakened from million-year dreams, human ships would be there to meet them. When the galaxy faced threats too terrible for civilized minds to comprehend, the Guardians would respond. They were humanity's gift to the galaxy. Warriors trained by a world that wanted to kill them, now dedicated to protecting those who could, not protect themselves. The aliens had expected salvation from their enlightened neighbors, but the Deathworlders had responded instead. And the galaxy was better for it.